Welcome to TLE News. I'm your host, Hassan Labduni, and this is what's black in the news, where we take mainstream news and we give it the black spin. Now, what we say here, others can't say anywhere else because we're not covered by any contracts, any hush deals, gag orders, sponsorships, endorsements, or anything like that. So you're going to get it clear, cut, uncensored, raw, and unadulterated. So here we have it. Now, if you haven't heard, the verdict came down in the case of Officer Geronimo Yanez killing Philando Castile. Now, just to get you up to speed, in case you haven't, Yanez pulled Castile over July 6th of last year, and during the course of this seemingly routine traffic stop, Yanez ended up fearing for his life, supposedly, and murdered Castile. The aftermath of which was streamed live on Facebook by Castile's girlfriend, Diamond Reynolds. Now, from the onset, the verdict was expected. It's hard enough to find a jury that will actually find an officer guilty for killing a black man. But to ensure that things went in a desirable way anyway, the jury was stacked against the deceased Castile. There were 10 white middle-aged jurors and 2 black jurors, a man and a woman. Now, it has been proven over and over and over again that white people in general are less empathetic to the lives of black people, especially black men in particular, than they are the lives of their fellow whites. Now, there is more compassion for non-blacks than there is for black people. According to the University of Toronto, the human brain fires differently when dealing with people outside of one's race. So it is physiological, it is neurological, it is ingrained, it is programmed. That's what they do. Now, the study found that participants' motor cortex was significantly less likely to fire when they watched the visible minority men perform the simple task. In some cases, when participants watched the non-white men performing the task, their brains actually registered as little activity as when they watched a blank screen. Now, previous research shows people are less likely to feel connected to people outside their own ethnic groups. And we wanted to know why, says Gutsell. What we found is that there is a basic difference in the way people's brains react to those from other ethnic backgrounds. Observing someone of a different race produced significantly less motor cortex activity than observing a person of one's own race. In other words, people were less likely to mentally stimulate the actions of other race than same race people. So going back to the case. To further exacerbate the pursuit of justice for Castile, defense attorneys had the original judge that was assigned to the case removed because, let's face it, that original judge was black. We didn't want any sympathy coming from the judge for what happened to Philando Castile to cloud his judgment and his decision against Officer Yanez, obviously. Now, instead, Judge William H. Leary III, head of the Ramsey County District Court's Civil Division, presided over the case. Leary is, and you guessed it, a white man. Now, in the wonderful state of Minnesota, the law is written in a way that defense attorneys are able to have a judge removed from a case without providing cause, reasonable or not. Just because they want a judge removed, they can go ahead and make that so. No reason needed. Now, when asked, the defense attorneys declined to state whether or not race was a factor, which implies that indeed it was a driving force in the decision to have that judge removed. Now, Yanez testified during the trial, and what he testified was that he initially pulled over Castile because he thought Castile looked like a suspect in a recent armed robbery, according to the Washington Post. But missing from this report of this trial is the audio recording of Yanez telling dispatch that the reason for the pullover is because the 2 occupants just looked like people that were involved in a robbery. The driver looks more like one of our suspects just because of the wide set nose, Yanez says over the dispatch radio. Now, this not guilty verdict elicited the expected responses, with thousands of people taken to the streets in protest of the ruling. CNN reported that about 500 people chanting "Black Lives, They Matter Here" marched onto Interstate 94, 2 miles west of the Capitol, shutting down traffic in both directions. The protests were expected after Officer Geronimo Yanez fatally shot Castile during a traffic stop on July 6, 2016. Excuse me. July 6, 2016, demonstrations took place across the nation, partly because the aftermath of the shooting was live streamed on Facebook by Castile's girlfriend, a passenger in the car. Organizers of the Friday protest said on Facebook, "This verdict shows how this system is rigged against justice for victims of police terror." Reportedly, 18 people were arrested during these protests. Now, Yanez's acquittal, which I said should not be new to anyone, should not come as a surprise for anyone whatsoever, follows a laundry list of questionable, at best, police acquittals involving the deaths of black men and women. Now, let's not forget, just last month, Officer Betty Jo Shelby was acquitted in the killing of unarmed black man Terence Crutcher. Despite damning evidence, prosecutors brought a case of manslaughter, and a grand jury felt it was enough to go to trial. Another jury, however, came back around and felt that Shelby is not guilty in the context of how the law was actually written. Now, prosecutors, however, did not follow up with the charge of involuntary manslaughter, which, as defined, states the act of unlawfully killing another human being unintentionally. Police get away with that a lot. It wasn't intentional, but it was a lawful killing. Right? Okay. Anyway, they don't even throw involuntary manslaughter when they take them to court. But manslaughter depends on the case, but mostly it's just manslaughter or anything else. Involuntary, hard to argue that away. But anyway, the game used time and time again is to play with words. Shelby was allowed to return to work, although Yanez will still have to seek police work at another police department. There is also Darren Wilson, who was acquitted in the shooting death of Michael Brown in Ferguson. Federal prosecutors announced May 3rd they wouldn't seek charges against 2 white cops in the shooting death of Alton Sterling in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Jamar Clark was killed by 2 white cops November 2015 in Minneapolis. Again, prosecutors decided to bring no charges. The list goes on. It really does. Ricky Ball was killed by a Columbus, Mississippi cop named Kenyon Boykin. Boykin had not been convicted but has been fired from the city for violating procedures by not turning on his body cam and for bringing his fiancée on a ride-along. Jeremy McDowell, who is wheelchair-bound, died at the hands of Wilmington police, and despite the fact that investigators concluded one officer showed extraordinarily poor police work, all officers have been cleared. I could go further. There's Freddie Gray, Tamir Rice, Eric Garner, Rakia Boyd, and more. That's just 10 off the list right now. There's more, plenty more. Google has all those answers for you. Again, the game is to play on words. Forget these marches. Don't count on these marches. You can forget them or don't. Everything plays its part. Everything plays a part. This just in. Seattle just killed another black person. This is not a joke. This is not a drill. This is for real, folks. This is a state of terror against black people committed by police. It is genocide against black folks committed by police. This is not a drill. Now listen up. Now, according to the Seattle Police Department, officers were responding to a report of a burglary in Lyle's apartment shortly before 10 a.m. Sunday, just yesterday. Lyles had apparently called the police about the burglary from her apartment in Brettler Family Place, a housing complex at Magnuson Park run by Solid Ground, a social services nonprofit. Lyles allegedly opened her door holding a knife. 2 officers fired multiple times, killing her. Seattle police did not immediately release the names of the officers, but according to the Seattle Times, both of these officers, both of these cops, they're white. They're white. Lyles, she's black, in case you didn't get the picture. Now, according to the accounts from the department and family members, 3 of Lyle's kids, ages 11, 4, and 1, were inside the apartment when she was killed, and they were taken into protective custody. Family members said she has a 4th child who was not living with her, and according to family members, one of the children has Down syndrome. Now, Monica Williams, Lyle's sister, said that Lyles had recently learned she was pregnant, the result of a test conducted while in King County Jail. Representatives from the jail did not immediately respond to requests for confirmation. Let's pause right here real quick. She got a pregnancy test while in King County Jail. So that means she's been in jail, she's been arrested, she's been detained before. So yes, she has a record. That does not cloud the fact she called the cops for help because of a burglary at her place and they killed her. Don't forget that. Fuck the past. That's not what I called you about. I called you about somebody breaking into my apartment. Let's keep it moving. In a statement, Seattle police said that shortly before 10 a.m. on Sunday, June 18, two North Precinct Patrol officers responded to a report of a waiting burglary call in an apartment building in the 6800 block of 62nd Avenue Northeast. Police said the call was a typical burglary report. Typical. Anyway, although they didn't provide details of it or say whether Charlene Lyles had anything to do with the call. However, KIRO7 also reported that it was Lyles who made the burglary call to the police. Let's keep going. Two officers were required due to information pertaining to this address that presented an increased risk to officers, police said, without detailing what that information was. Now, officers arrived and went to the fourth floor to meet with the complainant. Officers were confronted by a 30-year-old woman armed with a knife, the one that called the cops. Both officers fired their duty weapons, striking the woman. Hello, I called you. So what? I answered the door with my knife. You have guns. You can use a taser. I answered the door with my knife because somebody's broken into my apartment. So you could be the person that was breaking into my apartment. You really could be. Anyway, so I'm standing at this door with this knife, but we're logic. We're gonna go away. We're gonna go on with that. So both officers fired their duty weapons, striking the woman. The officers immediately performed first aid while the Seattle Fire Department responded, but the fire department declared the woman deceased once they arrived, the Seattle police said. Their version of the story. Detectives from the Force Investigation Team and SPD crime scene investigators responded to the scene, along with representatives from the Office of Professional Accountability to collect evidence and review the incident, said police, adding, both officers who discharged their weapons during the incident will be placed on paid vacation during the investigation in accordance with department protocol. Kill a black man, kill a black woman, take a vacation as we investigate. Paid. Next. In the weeks before the shooting, Lyles had been arrested on several minor charges and spent 9 days in jail, according to King County records. There goes that past again. Notice how we bring that up again. So, as a result, the department had flagged her and her apartment in its records system. So when dispatchers got the call, the department sent more officers than it might otherwise have done, according to the Seattle Police Department's blog. Now, King County jail records indicate Lyles was arrested and booked into jail June 5th for obstruction of a public official and 2 counts of harassment filed in Seattle Municipal Court. She was released conditionally June 14th, the newspaper reported. Her family says her mental health issues caused those issues and were not properly treated. Now, I have to get off script here for a second. I have to jump off script because stories like this and the fact that it's ramping up again seemingly is ridiculous. So I need to say something and get this out. So this is what I want to say. Police are killing black folks. Yes. Police are killing black folks seemingly almost left and right. Yes. To the naysayers of that statement, well, the naysayers of that statement will say that police are not targeting black folks. Statistics show police are killing more white folk than black folk. What I say for that statement is, yes, if the stats are correct, if the stats are what they say they are, and police are killing more white people than black people, if that is in fact true, then what I would have to say to that is that it does not change the fact police are killing black people. And quite frankly, the representation of the police killings is startling. Because although black folks are underrepresented politically, legally, they are underrepresented in news, in negative media, there's an overrepresentation for black people. Now, just because police are killing more white people than black people, like I said, does not change the fact that police are killing black people, and black people have every damn right to feel the way they feel about police killing their own. Now, if you police want to kill other white people and kill them en masse, by all means, that's your business. Have at it. Who cares? That's y'all problem. That is y'all problem, because y'all don't care that police are killing black folks. So that's y'all problem, okay? It is y'all people that go. It is y'all white folks that go out and do these mass shootings anyway. When's the last time you saw a black person do a mass shooting? Reportedly. Okay? So statistically, there's a higher representation of white people doing mass shootings than black folks. Just keeping it 100, just keeping it real. So we have a high representation of negative media towards black people. Violent crimes, arrests, poverty, welfare, so on, so on, so on. A high representation of that. One of the few areas we can have a high representation of. But where it counts the most, we do not have a high representation of. And gerrymandering just breaks up. Gerrymandering and district and zone redistricting breaks up the base of black power. So yes, kill all the white people you want. But we're still going to be mad when you kill one of ours. We have every right to be mad when you kill one of ours. We have every right because you're doing it. Because you're doing it. And getting away with it. Time and time again. It's not too often you get off killing your own and actually walk away when it's found that your shooting was not justified. It wasn't clean. But time and time again, when it comes to the killings of black people, there's always one thing or another, and these people walk off, playing with the game of words, with the law. The law is written that way. It's written for a reason, black folks. Step your vocabulary up. Read the law. Read the law. This has to stop. A change is needed. Something must be done. It cannot continue this way. Because if it continues this way, it's only going to continue to get worse. And that's that. I'm Hassan Labduni. This has been TLE News. This has been what's black in the news. We started off with Philando Castile dying at the hands of Officer Yanez, and the trial verdict coming back not guilty and Yanez being acquitted. Before the end of the broadcast, what do we have? Black woman shot and killed in Seattle. I have more coming in, actually. I have more coming in. I have more stories coming in. As they come in, I have more. They're coming in. They're coming in. They're coming in. I can't do them all. There's too much. We need to do something. I'm your host, Hassan Labduni. This is what's black in the news.